What is going on, everyone? Derek Hudson here with tip number 8 of my 10-part series, The Things I Learned from the 2021 season. And one of the things I learned this year is that some events are just a bucket full of learning lessons. And this one, the Potomac River Regional I fished this year, it was no different. This tournament had a little bit of everything sprinkled in. And I'm just going to take you through it like a story and share with you these different things I learned along the way. So, qualified for the Potomac River Regional through my BFLs, and as soon as I qualified, we went ahead and booked a campsite at the Smallwood State Park. My wife had never been camping, my daughter had never been camping, so it was going to be a perfect opportunity to go to a great state park, to enjoy the weather, enjoy the camping experience, show them the ropes, and it ended up being an epic camp trip. On top of, we got to fish the regional. So, camping trip, get down there, and I actually got down there the day before the tournament. Had 2 hours to practice, and went out there and just in that 2 hours didn't really find much. So, started the camping trip, went and set the tent up and got it all ready. And my wife and my daughter drove separate because my daughter still has to be in school and still had to come later. So they come later, set up the camping site. Well, one thing I learned from camping is, well, it's a lot of work. If you've never done camping, it is a lot of work, but it is a rewarding type of work. You know, getting the fire stoked up to either have breakfast, lunch, or dinner, to taking care of your surroundings as far as trash and where you have to use the restroom and all that stuff. It's a lot of work, but it can be a lot of fun. So one of the things I learned while we were there was that Sea Clear Power makes a navigation light. And if you look back in one of my posts not too long ago, Sea Clear Power navigation light is an awesome light, but it's a multifunctional light. It's got really cool strobe in different colors and all of that, but it also has a feature where the whole thing lights up. And if you look at these pictures right here, it ended up being the best light for camping and shining over your whole campsite to where you don't step on a snake or drop something and can't find it. It was a lifesaver when it came to lighting up that campsite. So really cool product. Found another use for it, the Sea Clear Power navigation light. It really is awesome when you are doing something that requires a lot of light, and that was definitely an experience that needed it. So that was a cool thing I learned. But after the first night of camping, the tournament blast-offs next morning, getting to the tournament, and the first day, I decided to hit hardcover. I didn't have any time to practice, so hardcover is one of them things that you can figure it out and be able to run it really quickly. Whereas grass, it's under the surface a lot of times. So you can't tell if you found them in a big patch of milfoil, you can't go repeat it because you don't know where another patch of milfoil is. So hardcover is different. If you catch a fish off a dock, you can look over the next bank and find another dock. So I decided to fish hardcover, and I go to Belmont Bay, which has rock, wood, a little bit of everything, docks, it has it all. So I go in there and I start fishing around and catching a few small fish really quickly up in there. And I'm getting dialed in that the fish are on docks and on rock. So I'm like, okay, I know where plenty of that is up the river. I'm just going to keep running towards DC and just hopping along, hitting places that I traditionally have caught them. And I'm bouncing along, and I'm catching a few fish here and there, and I end up catching a really good one, and I get just about all the way up to the edge of DC, and about that time, I go in to fish 3 docks, and when I go in to fish the docks, I fish them, crank the motor up to go back down and start hitting some more stuff on the way back down, and when I put it in gear, I get nothing. The motor's running good. It just, when I click it in gear, throttle, you can rev it up all you want to. It's not doing a thing. So first thing that goes to my mind is I done spun a prop. Done it before. Like, let me trim it up and see what the issue is. I got a spare prop. Not a big deal. So I trim it up, and no, my prop, my nut that holds the prop on, the whole hub assembly, the cotter key that holds it in, the little pin that holds it in, all of that is gone. The whole works is gone. And ended up talking with my mechanic later, and come to find out, he says, yeah, what's going to happen is if you break a cotter key off and your nut works its way off, making that long run up there, when you set down on pad, you will never know anything's wrong until that exact instance that you get ready to take off. What happens is when it's in gear and its centrifugal force will keep that prop on there. There's splines. There's a bunch of metal splines that the prop slides on. Those splines will hold it when it's spinning from flying off. And then as soon as you kick it in neutral, that prop's just going to fall off. Sure enough, that must have been what happened. So, prop's gone. I'm left wondering, what in the heck am I going to do? Well, luckily I got another prop. So I'm like, okay, I got to back this motor up. There's a little boat ramp right there where I was. So I'm going to back this boat motor up to the boat ramp, hop out on the boat ramp, be in, a foot of water, but I'll be on a flat spot that I can actually change this prop really easily. So I grabbed the spare prop out. I grabbed the tools to do it. I grabbed the cotter keys, and I'm like, oh, wait, I'm missing something. Well, never run into this issue because I've broken blades off. I've spun hubs. I've done things with props that you repair it. You change out your prop. I've never needed the nut that actually goes on and holds the prop on there before you slide the key on the pin, the cotter pin. And I didn't have a spare nut. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get back to weigh in. We got fish in the live well. What are we going to do? So I look at it, and the prop has got about 4 or 5 inches of depth in the splines, is how deep, maybe even longer, so maybe 6 inches, but it's down in there, and it's enough depth on those splines that there's only about a ½ inch to an inch of distance between the prop and where that cotter pin goes through the actual drive of the shaft. So I'm thinking there's only one option I really have, and that is to take that cotter pin, put it in there, and when your cotter pin goes in, it's 2 different stems that come in. So it goes in, and then I bend one direction, one the other, and I bent them where they were just at about an even distance from the actual way it goes in. So it made like a triangle. And I was like, hopefully, it's the only chance I have. And if I lose this prop, oh well. I have no other way to get back to the weigh-in. I've got fish. My co-angler's got fish. I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot the first day. We got to take this chance. So I put it in gear, and I slowly take off. So far, so good. And I get it up to speed, and I get it up to about 55 miles an hour. And because I have to run that fast to get all the way back down before we're late to check in and we lose our fish anyway. So 55 mile per hour, 25 mile run. Ended up making it all the way back to weigh-in. Yes, that cotter pin held in there that entire ride. And it was truly something I learned that I never would have expected in a million years, that a simple 97-cent cotter pin would hold that prop and actually survive all the way back to weigh-in. And ended up, I called my mechanic that was in that area and got another spare prop, a whole nother assembly, more nuts, more cotter pins, got it all ready to go for the next day. So I was more prepared the next day. Ended up not having a good enough tournament to really salvage anything, but the beauty of it is my co-angler, because he was able to weigh his fish the first day, he made the cut. He made the top 10 cut, having a chance to fish for the All-American. He didn't make it. He didn't make it to the All-American, but he got a good check out of it. And if it wasn't for the ingenuity and the Lord blessing me with the thought, and it popped in my head to do that, I wouldn't have made it back. And it was pretty epic, pretty neat thing to learn. Well, so come back to it. That was one thing I learned that was pretty cool. But I learned another thing. I learned that the fish at the Potomac love, and I mean love, they were hitting it harder than I've had bites in a long time. They love a missile mini flip jig with the mini D chunk, the new mini D chunk. I just got them, and let me tell you what, the action of that little bait, those fish were crushing that thing. And I mean, like knocking slack in my line. They were hitting it so hard, and it was pretty awesome. So, Sea Clear Power Navigation Light. If you want a light that's bad to the bone and will also be good for camping, that's a light you need to check out. If you get in a pinch and you don't have a nut to put on your prop, you can. Reluctantly, I'm not advising this, but it worked for me. The Carter pin will hold the assembly on and will make it where you can run wherever you need to go. And missile jig, let me tell you what, that little D chunk on that little mini flip, you can see it right there, that thing is dynamite. I ended up using it at the Toyota Series Championship. That thing is going to be a strong player for me in the 2022 season, and I cannot wait to get that thing on some of these bodies of water that they love a jig, so, which is all bodies of water. But check them out. Those are things you're not going to want to, go without looking at, because there's some good products there. But also remember that Carter key issue can be fixed with simply a Carter key. You don't need a nut. So that's some things you need to check out. Need to remember. Appreciate you tuning in. I hope this helps you in your future. Thanks again.